Hey, Sean popping in here before we get started with the video. I just wanted to let you know that when I was recording the gameplay, that I accidentally also recorded the shitty earbud audio off of my mic. So as a result, I've had to remove the gameplay sounds at some points, but I've done my best to quote-unquote adequately replace it, and it didn't take away from anything important, so just a heads up. Thanks. Welcome to BL4 Lore. My name is Sean, and this is episode 31, and we are in the research hall. So, if you left off with me last time, I was in the underground corpse pile with Ludwig, and now I'm at the top of the research hall. And, I got up here, I have footage, but the footage involves a bunch of these, a few of these, and even one of these. Which don't make for the most engaging let's play sort of footage, especially when most of my reactions are along the terms of "oh shit," and with the cool lore and stuff I have in this area, I wanted to just get up through it and then just take a look through after, because I feel like that'll just be a more solid video while being engaging. And it also lets me switch to commentary as I'm playing through, which is fun, I think. So we're gonna approach it that way, and then we'll get to we'll get up through the Living Failures now, and I'll actually get to explore a few things that I didn't explore running up through here, because I kind of mainlined up to the Living Failures boss because, well, This place was pretty hard for me to play through. I had, as you saw, quite a few deaths. So now we're gonna, without the weight of getting up here on our shoulders, we can explore in a little more comfort. So to start off with, what is the research hall? The research hall is run by the Healing Church. The time of, well, I guess the time frame's weird, but back quite a while ago, before current day Yarnum that we see. And so if it's run by the Healing Church, they're obviously up to no good. So let's go take a look and see if we can figure out what the purpose of this research hall is. Just want to note, you can find similar oh my goodness, friend! You can find similar lanterns at the Upper Cathedral Ward, along with bastards like that guy. Okay, that guy's a dick. You know what? This is... You're messing it up for me. Whoa! Okay, let's just... I meant to fight that guy over there where you first meet him, so you can just chuck him off over there. But, you know. Anyways, so you can see these lanterns in the Upper Cathedral Ward on your way to the Celestial Emissaries, which makes sense because we're pretty close to that. We're roughly above the main cathedral where you fight Amelia, but in the past, in a nightmare version of the world. But let's get back to what the heck what's this research all about? So, as you can see to my right, Laboratory Floor 3, and that is a communion rune, which gives some good insight as to what the research hall was made for. So, blood ministration is their pursuit of communion, as the rune tells us. And so, in Aegon's Let's Talk Lore, I think he sums it up really well in episode 17 when he says that the purpose of the research hall is to commune with the Great Ones, as the Healing Church likes to do. So that's what they were trying to do. So now we can get into how exactly they were going about doing it. And to get that answer, there's actually a few item descriptions I want to take a look at. So, first, and just for note, there's some kids playing soccer outside, and it shouldn't be too loud, but it's really nice out today, and it hasn't been nice in a while, and my cat's sitting in the window. I'm not going to close the window for you guys, because my cat looks like he's in cat heaven, so I'm just going to let him bask in the window. You may hear the kick of a soccer ball or a child or something, but it should be quiet. I'll edit it out, hopefully. So, here's a few item descriptions. You find this immediately when you first enter the research hall, down below, and it says, a dubious liquid medicine used in strange experiments conducted by high ministers of the Healing Church, a type of anesthetic that numbs the brain. So, that gives you an idea. Strange experiments, Healing Church, they're numbing the brain. And, why? You know, we know that they're trying to reach the Great Ones, so they're doing strange experiments. Now, let's take a look at, just to bring it around. So this is the white church hat. You meet a few of these sort of church doctors. They believe that medicine is not a means of treatment, but rather a method for research, and that some knowledge can only be obtained by exposing oneself to sickness. So it's not a crazy conclusion to say that the research hall, in order to commune with the Great Ones, is doing some weird experiments on these guys' brains, making them sick in order to try and communicate. And so what exactly are they using to do that? And we will pursue that answer. But first, I want to get to an area that I actually wasn't able to get to on my way up originally. And I think this area, while I think the lore has some interesting questions, it's somewhat straightforward, but boy does it have an emotional punch, because Bonfireside Chat in their Research Hall episode talks about how you kind of, motherfucker. But they talk about how and you can see all this area, so just a couple swipes and you're good. But, so, alright. So, as I was saying, I think my favorite part about this area, and what makes me like this area so much, yes, I died. I edited it out. There was another silly death. I fell to my death. Let's move on with our lives. But, as I was saying, what I really dig about this area, and I think what people really enjoy about it, is just the atmosphere, and just how strongly it conveys this horror of what the church has done. And the church has done some pretty terrible things, but this is just really effective way of showing. Alright. Okay, let's see if I can get through here without dying, because I haven't gotten to this area in this run, and I really want to. Okay, then we got another person over here. Be a little careful. Oh my god. They're waiting for me with their poison hand. Okay. Whew. Done with that part. Fuck you guys. Also, I'm sorry. You guys were... terrible things were done to you. As I'm trying to get to. So.
Kill me, please.
Yeah. So there's that. This is the room. This is a sad room. So, first of all, what unsanitary experimentation conditions? There's bodies everywhere. I didn't put those bodies there, I just got here. Right.
Kill me. Oh. Please, just kill me.
So there's a debate about...
Free me from this place.
If they were like voluntary,
before I
and
go mad.
regardless of if they started out voluntary or not, which I'm dubious about knowing the church, they definitely held them here, and there's no turning back.
Someone help me. I'm guilty. I know. But I won't do it again. I promise. The darkness. It frightens me. And what rises from its very depths.
So that's the part that makes me wonder if they're not using... She says I'm guilty. Is she guilty of just the experiment not going well with her? Or is, she brought here against her will? Criminals?
Lady Maria, please take my hand. Please help me. Don't let me drown.
So that's the first mention of Lady Maria we have here, who is the caretaker of this place. And we will get way into her next episode, but it seems like she's a source of comfort, at least for this guy. And we will get way more into exactly what sort of role, and even though she's a source of comfort, these guys obviously have some issues going on, and is it I won't spoil it. We'll get into it. But Lady Maria, she's coming up. And I think for now, I'm going to kill these people. Because they're way better not being here. Even though, should really check out, JSF's video that I will link in the description that talks further about Lawrence, the doll, but also the Dreamlands. And I really agree with him that in the video he brings up this whole point that I won't unpack here, but that these guys probably aren't actually patients here, because it doesn't make much sense for what the dream is. So they're most likely like a creation of the subconscious, sort of loaded into the dream. Okay, now... Alright. But yeah, so this place is horrifying. And they have these treatments done to them, talking about stuff going on in their head. So, let's get even more. You see some hunters here, just bad business. Get out of here. Wheelchair man trying to gas me. Alright. So, what exactly was being done here? And what treatment was being done to cause this? So, on YouTube, Lore theorizes that the patients were given parasite-infested water found within Cause. And I think that's a really interesting theory, given what this lady here is searching for.
Oh, hello. One last time. Will you fetch brain fluid just one last time? The murky, mushy fluid that will make me whole. The sticky sound whispers to me, so very close, right into my ear. My head, just a head, that's all there is. I need my baptism. Please, I beg of you, I want to be something.
So, I think one interesting thing to pull from that is, and keep in mind, is that she says, I need my baptism. And I think that's pretty interesting, especially, as we said, that the point of the research hall is communion. So we have some, obviously it's the Healing Church running this, some very religious imagery going on here. And it's interesting to just slot that into the Lovecraftian cosmic horror nature of Bloodborne. Before continuing on, I just wanted to talk about, so we have Adeline here, and we've seen her a few times, but she's indicative of other patients, and it's interesting to note that when thinking about the experimentation that there are patients with different sized heads. This is their head covered in bandages, and that they have different behaviors. And Jerk Sans Frontières offers in video linked below about the research hall that perhaps this indicates different kinds of experiments done on the patients to yield different results. We have those who are just heads here, kind of indicative of your typical patient. But then we also have these guys just moving around. We have some who crawl. So you have a whole bunch of different stuff going on here. Maybe they tried different routes of experimentation. The other thing we know for sure is that they imbibed water and potentially containing parasites from cause as a means to try and get communion with the Great Ones. So, getting back to Adeline here, she is a former blood saint and is now patient. And I'm going to slot in here a few clips we've had with her before.
Is that you, Lady Maria? No. You're someone else. Please, could you do something for me? I need brain fluid. Murky, mushy brain fluid. Oh, thank you. You're terribly kind. Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, I hear the sticky sound. Do you hear it too? Hello? Is that who I think it is? Please. Oh, please, I need brain fluid. The sticky sound is fading fast. Please bring me brain fluid. I must have it. That sound, it is all that guides me. Without it, I'll be sent back to my former, lesser years. Yes, that's it. Let me have it. I can hear it. Yes. The sound that guides me. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have saved me. Take this charm. Lady Maria gave it to me, but it is all I can offer, other than my own blood. Please, do not abandon me. I promise to do good. Oh, hello. Do you hear that? The sticky sound, as clear as day. Slip, slop, drip, drop, slip, slop. How extraordinary. Do you think that water drips even down deep below at the bottom of the sea? Can you hear it?
So, as you can see, we've become friends. And now I'm not killing her to be a dick. It's because she wants some brain fluid, and where better to get it than from your own brain. So, before we continue, let's take a look at brain fluid. Or is it a key? Where is it? Okay. Grayish amoeba-shaped brain fluid wobbles and bounces, extracted from a patient whose head expanded until that was all that they were. We fail to realize our own latent potential until the moment it is lost, and we sense its absence. Ironically, this is the very nature of insight, like the moment one licks one's own blood, only to be startled by its sweetness. So we learn about the brain fluid that has these amoeba-shaped things in it. And that is what I believe Lore is putting forth as the parasites from cause that are put into this water and put into their brain, because we know that the church at this point is very interested in eyes on the inside. And what better way than to infect your patients with what the villagers at the fishing hamlet were most likely infected with. So I think that's a relatively reasonable argument to make. And I think that, getting back on what I was talking before about being baptized, was that I think in addition to this, being the healing church, I would be surprised if they didn't use blood at all. And thinking about what the effects of blood are, could not also the blood also be infected with similar parasites from great ones, or at least inhuman parasites, and that's what causes some of the effects that it has? So I imagine there's probably a combination of blood and water done, even if the imbibing of this water was the main thing that was done to the patients. And so now let's talk to her again now that we have done that.
Please give me brain fluid. The sticky sound whispers I need my baptism. Or perhaps I'm already brimming over. I see a shape. My guide, I see your voice. Clearly as it bends and bleeds.
Right.
My own revelation. Just for me. Thank you for everything. Really, I used to be nothing.
So Adeline has sort of met her potential, as the brain fluid was talking about, and she discovered an epiphany, the milkweed rune, which we will get a little bit more into later, but I wanted to bring it up. Show it off now. The Carol rune envisioned by Adeline, the patient of the research hall, a transcription of the inhuman sticky whispers that reveal the nature of a celestial attendant. So she said she heard the voice of her guide as it bends and bleeds. So this guide. Those who take this oath become a lumen wood that peers toward the sky, feeding Phantasm in its lustrous bed. Phantasms guide us and lead to further discoveries. So between Ludwig, that we just saw, and now with Adeline and this talk of guidance and guiding, I think it's a safe assumption to say that these phantasms could definitely be the source of these guides. And they lead the discoveries of the great ones, perhaps their words, but I just wanted to keep in mind and implant in your own head a phantasm to guide you toward what we will talk about after the Living Failures. We're going to take a brief detour here. I will link it below, but this person...
Has someone, anyone, seen my eyes? I am afraid I've dropped them in a puddle.
So there's a Reddit post with a fun little theory that just suggests that perhaps their eyes have gone inside, and that the paleness that they're seeing is the brain fluid inside their head. So they explain that a little more. I mean, that's basically it, but I just thought that was a fun bit. So we got this key from Adeline when we gave her second brain fluid, and we find ourselves in a very familiar place. This looks very similar to where we fought the Celestial Emissary, the Lumen Flower Garden. And it still looks pretty Lumen Flower and Garden-y, except for now it has these patients. And I would like to note that while being very similar, there are a few differences. One is, in the Waking world, in the current Grand Cathedral, it doesn't have this architecture here. Like this part doesn't exist. So it seems like it's very unlikely that they would get rid of it. So I don't know if the research hall was literally here in the Waking world at any point. But it must have been close, but it's just not exactly the same shape. So, it could also just be game coming up with stuff later on, but there are a few differences. And also, a very interesting difference is that in the current world of the game, there are statues in all of these little holes that look very similar to the moon presence. So I don't quite have a conclusion to draw there, but it's just interesting to note. Bunch of moon presence-y looking statues in here. So if anything, it just indicates the moon presence isn't a factor yet. And we will be getting to the moon presence much later. But just something to note in this timeline, that the moon presence isn't something that the church is thinking about or communicating with. And let's see, these guys will just wreck house on you if you see them. So this over here is where we would enter, where we entered to fight the Celestial Emissary from the Upper Cathedral Ward. It's covered up, not a thing, so. But I think the easiest way to get out of this current situation is to show off my skills here. And also show off their skills. Oh my. And there we go. If you go in that garden, they will open up some arcane pass on you. Okay, so now we're in the Lumenwood Garden, and before jumping into the fight with the Living Failures, I wanted to give you a little bit of their background, because it's sort of a question as to what are the Living Failures exactly. They seem like they're patients. They might be a precursor to the Celestial Emissary, but it's sort of questionable, why are they called failures when they seem so much more powerful than the Celestial Emissary? And if you haven't noticed by now, I've put on the Milkweed rune, which has turned me into some cauliflower. And I wanted to mention that in this description it talks about the luscious bed here, and the luscious bed, I think, is definitely your brain. As JSF goes into more detail, but it makes sense that that's what this is grown out of, what the phantasm's like, as you can see with Madman's knowledge. You can see with the brain suckers, which seem to be phantasms inside your head, so the brain seems to be the source there. But getting back into the Living Failures, JSF speculates that perhaps the Living Failures visit the garden in search of Maria, and then when they die, or they die here, or they bury themselves, like this lady, maybe she would become a living failure. And it's adding into that theory that maybe the living failures are like rising. Maybe they die, they get buried here, these bodies, maybe some of them come back as these living failures, as something transforms them through the Lumenwood. And I think that's an interesting theory. And I think, for myself, that I think the Living Failures are a precursor to the Celestial Emissaries, and I think the reason that they're a failure is a surprisingly simple one. That they never were able to make communion. As recognized as the purpose of the research hall, I don't think that, while powerful in arcane stuff, and they can summon meteors and open up a portal to space, I think even though they grasped reaching out into the cosmos, I don't think they ever reached anyone, and thus they were failures. And I think the Celestial Emissaries are more successful on that front. So I like that explanation, because I think that, the reason they're making these creatures isn't to fight. They're making them for a purpose, to commune with the Great Ones. And the Living Failures, just, while they're good at making space portals, they're not good at communicating with Great Ones. So maybe they should be called the socially awkward failures. Anyways. So that's my own personal theory on that front. And so now I think it is time to check out the footage of my successful run against this boss, the Living Failures. Alright, so fighting the Living Failures at BL4 is basically relying on a very cheesy exploit, but otherwise they have so much health, it'd be such a terrible fight to do without this. So the biggest thing I can say for combat is their arms are a lot more waggly, so you want to watch out for their swings. And basically, just your goal right now is to get this guy gone. I'm using Beast Blood Pellet. I'm doing R1, L1, and then after that, I'm going over here while trying to avoid the other guy's long-range attacks. And I'm just going to keep killing these guys and trying to avoid. And this is the best moment in this fight, because that was a nice little dodge there, but that even opens me up to a danger as I got hit by that waggly arm. But I keep on. My beast meter's full. Just going ham on these guys. Just trying to do as much damage to them, because no other guys will spawn, and they'll just keep popping out of this hole. As long as you just keep that other guy alive and you keep killing these guys. So I've done like 80% of their health before you have to get out of here with this, which is a real bastard of an attack, and I just kind of luckily just rotate around this, have a good dodge or two, use that as a shield. And then it's funny because this part of the fight is probably the most dangerous and like takes about as long as the rest of it. Watch out for their waggly arms. Re-equip some bolt paper, and the rest is just playing the fight normal, just trying to get the last bit of health gone. There you go. And bam. This went pretty well for me. It only took about maybe an hour, so this fight wasn't too bad, but definitely helped by using that cheese, which I got from a video link below. I got this strategy from @Stranosorb Nick on Twitter, and I got it from another guy, Scrublord, on YouTube, which I'll link. So there you go. Alright, and to wrap up this video, I just wanted to touch on one more point of just my overall theory of what the research hall led to. And this is all my sort of stuff, sort of taking from Lore and Lore's video about the research hall with some of JSF's speculation. But my thought is that, as Lore and Lore says in their video, that they used cause parasites, they imbibed the water, they used some blood, some of the old blood, and that this encouraged the growth of lumen wood in their heads and attracted phantasms. And that we know that the phantasms are an augur of the Great Ones, and the creation of lumen wood eventually lures Left Behind Ebriatus, but not yet. They will eventually get there, but I think that what would eventually become the choir's main bit of research starts here in the research hall, where they're starting to reach out and commune, and they're figuring out that you do that by basically making your brain attractive to phantasms to guide you, and you end up with weird shit like this. So success. Anyways, that's all about the research hall for today, and next episode we will be taking a browse into the Astral Clock Tower and talking with Lady Maria and putting her on trial for charges against her. But this has been episode 31 of BL4 Lore. Thanks for watching.